Hello viewers, welcome back to our channel. Today I come to you with a very unique topic titled Circus Comes to Town. How did circus come into existence? In this video, I will be narrating you the story of how circus came into existence and how it progressed through decades. So, no more waiting. Let's talk about circus. Isn't it exciting when we hear that a circus company is in town? Of course, yeah. Circus comes to town means people of all age groups are excited about it. The enthusiasm is same for the children and the grown-ups as well. When a circus company arrives at a place, it usually pitches the tents on the largest ground of the towns or cities and stays put for over months to provide entertainment and fanfare for everyone. People from far and near flung every day in large numbers to watch the performers perform live in front of them in the circus ring, which doubles the excitement. Decades ago, circus was a very important form of entertainment for people residing in large villages, small towns and cities. It usually was an annual ritual for the circus coming to town and children eagerly waiting for the day when they get to go to the circus. It was similar to how people eagerly wait for their daily TV soap operas today. Moving on, let me tell you a little bit about circus. What is a circus? A circus is a company of performers who perform acts to entertain people. They are clowns, acrobats, trained animals, trapeze artists, musicians, dancers, hoopers, tightrope walkers, jugglers, magicians, ventriloquists and unicyclists, as well as other object manipulation and stunt-oriented artists. All of them come together to entertain people in the form of a circus. Moving on, now let me tell you, when did the circus originate? It is difficult to say the exact date of the origin of circus, but in ancient Rome, as recorded in historical accounts, circus was a building for the exhibition of horse and chariot races, equestrian shows, staged battles, gladiatorial combat, and displays of and fights with trained animals. The circuses of Rome were similar to the ancient Greek hippodromes. The first circus in the city of Rome was the Circus Maximus. It is in ruins now and is located in the valley between the Palatine and Aventine hills. It was constructed during the monarchy and at first built completely from wood. After being rebuilt several times, the final version of the Circus Maximus could seat 250,000 people. It was built of stone and measured 400 meters in length and 90 meters in width. It is said that the Circus Maximus was in operation for more than 1,000 years. There were other circuses too, and to name the important ones are the Circus Flaminius and the Circus Neronis. It is said that Circus Neronis was popular during the reign of Nero. A fourth circus was constructed by Maxentius, and its ruins have helped archaeologists reconstruct the Roman circus. As we come across numerous accounts in history which suggest that for some time after the fall of Rome, large circus buildings fell out of use as centers of mass entertainment. The small troops of performers that included animal trainers, showmen, and people with specialized talents wandered through Europe, Africa, and Asia and began performing for nobles at community halls, in local markets, and at fairs. Between the 9th and 11th century, kings of England, the likes of Alfred the Great and William the Conqueror, encouraged these performing artists. They brought these artists from France to England for their entertainment. The performing troupes of rope dancers, tumblers, and contortionists got a platform to display their talent in England. As it was by the 18th century that fairs became the place of entertainment, providing a showcase for acrobatics, feats of skill, trained animals, and other elements later associated with the circus. Over the passage of time, by the late 18th century, circus in the real terms got into shape in the modern period, and it continues to remain the same as we see it in the present day. Birth of modern circus and its origin in England. According to various sources, Philip Astley is considered to be the father of modern circus. Astley was born in 1742 at Newcastle under Lyme in England. He must have been a man of ideas and adventure. Since he was a former cavalry officer in the English army, he could display horse riding tricks. He used to stand on a horseback and perform tricks which drew audience. The circus ring. Later on, Astley performed within a ring and also experimented with the ring in order to determine its optimum size, which would suit for both the performer and the spectator. Initially, his first ring was about 62 feet or 19 meters in diameter, and he eventually adopted the 42 feet or 13 meter in diameter ring. And it is the standard size that is still used in modern circuses. Circus got its modern shape in the year 1770. Astley's shows in the early days consisted of his riding exhibitions. In 1768, Astley acquired Halfpenny Hatch, a small piece of land on the south bank of the Thames between London Bridge and Westminster Bridge, and began displaying his acts. Subsequently, he decided to provide variety in his entertainment. For this purpose, he hired a clown named Mr. Merryman, musicians, acrobats, tightrope walkers, jugglers, and other performers. He finally built a roof over his ring and added a stage or the ring for dramatic performances. In 1770, Astley established the first of his amphitheatres. Because of these innovations, he is credited with having developed the modern circus, which got its final shape. Astley then exported his circus to Paris in France, known as the Amphitheatre Anglois, in 1782, and then continued to build 18 more circuses throughout Europe. All these circuses were exhibited in especially built buildings for them. Just to remind you viewers, there were buildings and not tents where circuses were exhibited. Circus in tents appeared much later, which I will talk about later in this video. So keep watching till the end to know about some very interesting facts. Astley got competitive. The year was 1782. Astley's first competitor, Charles Hughes, a former member of Astley's company, in association with Charles Dibdin, a prolific songwriter and author of pantomimes, opened a rival amphitheatre and riding school in London called the Royal Circus and Equestrian Philharmonic Academy. However, it is worth mentioning here that the term circus to describe this type of exhibition was coined by Astley's rival Charles Dibdin, the co-owner of the Royal Circus in London. Dibdin's term circus was gradually used internationally to describe the mixture of horsemanship, comic turns, and animal acts programmed as a theatrical spectacle. Circus historical accounts also suggest Charles Hughes went to perform in the court of Catherine the Great in St. Petersburg, Russia. In the same year, one of his pupils, British equestrian rider John Bill Ricketts, moved to the United States and opened the first circus there in Philadelphia. Circus comes to the United States. The year was 1793 and on 3rd April, Englishman John Bill Ricketts brought the first modern Astley-type circus to the United States in Philadelphia. Ricketts' circus featured a rope walker, a clown, and riding acts. Ricketts gave America's first complete circus performance. It is also said first US President George Washington attended a performance there later that season. In 1797, Ricketts also established the first Canadian circus in Montreal. His only competition in America was the British equestrian rider Philip Lelson, who came to the United States in 1795, brought the circus to Mexico. More or less by the start of the 19th century, majority of early circuses in America and Europe based their acts on ideas laid down by Philip Astley of England. Fall of Ricketts' circus. Unfortunately, Ricketts' circus faced accidental fire and he lost his New York circus completely destroyed. Later in 1799, another fire destroyed his Philadelphia circus and ultimately he was left bankrupt. He decided to go back to England and boarded a ship which set sail in 1800. But again, bad luck struck. The ship sank in the sea and all people on board perished. That was the end of Ricketts, the man who brought circus to the United States. Uncertainty of circus in the United States in early 1800s. After Ricketts' death, the popularity of circus came down in the United States. Efforts were made to popularize the circus again. Elephant was brought to the United States by Captain Jacob Crown Inn Shield after he joined the Gaetano, Codet, Menial and Redden Circus of New York in 1812. In the meantime, Victor Pepin, a native New Yorker, was the first American to operate a major circus company in the United States. Circus gets its tent. The year was 1825. Joshua Purdy Brown was the first circus owner to use a large canvas tent for circus performance. It allowed Brown to become the first operator to travel widely with his circus, which he did throughout Virginia in 1826 and along the banks of the Mississippi River in 1828. His show featured minstrel numbers as well as acts common to other circuses of the time. It would eventually offer an animal menagerie, which means it is a type of a zoo where animals are put on display. It was for the first time in the year 1832 animal menagerie was incorporated into a circus setting. But unfortunately, when Brown died suddenly following a performance in 1834, American circus lost its most important promoter. Important innovations during this time included the introduction of the circus tent or big top, which was first used about 1825 on the itinerating show of the American J. Purdy Brown. His reason for exhibiting shows under canvas tents, which were at first very small, housing one ring and a few hundred seats, are unknown. But it was an innovation that became a standard component of circuses for more than a century and a half. After Brown's death, It took almost 4 decades for the circus to re-emerge with newfound popularity. Circus regains its lost glory in the United States. The year was 1871. American circus was revolutionized by P.T. Barnum and William Cameron who launched the traveling P.T. Barnum's Museum, Menagerie and Circus, the first freak show. Becoming partners with the W.C. Coup in 1871, Barnum and Coup produced a spectacular circus in Brooklyn, New York, that was named as the greatest show on earth. It is said the shows were really spectacular, as the name of the circus suggested. It offered several attractions borrowed from Barnum's Museum, which was already shut down in 1868 after fire destroyed it. The museum attractions evolved as the sideshow, a feature unique to American circuses. Introduction of circus train for transportation. The year was 1872. W.C. Coup introduced the first multiple ring circuses. An extraordinary innovation and another big change can also be credited to Barnum and Coup. They were the first circus entrepreneurs to use circus trains to transport the circus between towns. Prior to 1872, most circuses moved from town to town by horse and wagons, a form of transport that necessarily limited the size and the distances they could cover in a given season. In the spring of 1872, Barnum and his partners loaded the show onto 65 railroad cars and thus began the era of the giant railroad circuses. Circuses could move greater distances and perform in towns that had the space and the population to support the large shows. Barnum's own greatest show on earth eventually traveled on 3 separate trains going distances of 100 miles, that is 160 kilometers or more in a single night. American circuses thus became models of logistic efficiency. It is said their methods led to the creation of the modern system of rail freight handling. The United States gradually emerged as the world leader in circus innovation. The American circus truly came to the forefront of international developments through the efforts of P.T. Barnum and W.C. Coup. P.T. Barnum partners with James A. Bailey and introduction of multiple rings. In the 1880s, Barnum began to produce shows in partnership with James A. Bailey. These productions would define circuses in the United States for more than a century. Bailey was best known as the promoter of the Great International Circus. He had staged successful tours of the Americas, Australia, and New Zealand in the 1870s. The best circus organizer in the business partnered with Barnum, the best showman in the business, and it became a grand success. Their circus offered the types of acts that had been established throughout the 19th century. Circus history says that they had so many acts and operated on such a large scale that the show required the use of 2 rings in 1873 and then 3 rings in 1881. The most famous attraction of the early Barnum and Bailey circus was the legendary Jumbo, the largest elephant in the world, which Barnum acquired in 1882. Barnum and Bailey's had a major competitor during the late 19th century. It was the Ringling Brothers, who established their first circus in 1884. During this period and into the early 20th century, the Ringlings expanded their company by acquiring several smaller circuses. In the United States and some in Europe, circuses annually took a break during the winters to rest and refurbish for another season. Another important thing worth mentioning is that most of the continental, European and British circuses generally retain the one ring format in the mid to late 19th century. Their shows were very highly skilled and their tents usually had seats that could accommodate as many as 5,000 spectators. In order to maintain the one ring design, the European tent was designed with the 4 center poles forming a square instead of a single fine line as with American big tops. European circuses were also often performed in permanent buildings, for example, at the Circus Comes in Copenhagen and at the venerable Kirk de Hiver in Paris, which dates back to 1852. Circus moves beyond Europe and the United States. In the early 20th century, and to be precise, the year was 1919, Lenin, the head of the erstwhile Soviet Union, wanted circus to become the people's art form with facilities and wanted it equivalent to that of theatre, opera and ballet. With the initiation of Lenin, USSR nationalized Russian circuses. In 1927, the State University of Circus and Variety Arts, better known as the Moscow Circus School, was established. Performers were trained using methods developed from the Soviet gymnastics program. When the Moscow State Circus Company began international tours in the 1950s, its level of originality and artistic skill were widely acclaimed. To this day, nearly every city of any size in the former Soviet states boasts a permanent circus building. Throughout Europe, rail transport for circuses was never very popular, and although a few attempts at traveling by rail were made, it was not until the second quarter of the 20th century that rail travel came into regular use by any European show. During the same time, circuses started growing in Latin America, India, and East Asia in late 1800s and early 1900s. It can be said that the influence of the American circus brought about a considerable change in the character of the modern circus. From the late 19th century through the first half of the 20th century, traveling circuses were a major form of spectator entertainment across the world. After World War II, the popularity of the circus declined as new forms of entertainment such as television arrived and the public's tastes changed. Yet, a good number of traveling circuses are still active in various parts of the world, ranging from small family enterprises to three-ring extravaganzas. Other companies found new ways to draw in the public with innovative new approaches to the circus form itself. So viewers, I come to the end of the first part of the series Circus Comes to Town. I will be coming back with more about circus and its various aspects in my subsequent episodes. Please keep a lookout for my upcoming videos. And to get instant notifications of my upcoming videos, please subscribe to my channel and click on the notification button. Till we meet next time, take care. Bye bye.